ended with a secret I can never confess. And now, even in silence, it screams inside me. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold, because here, we don't just tell stories. We unravel the human heart. My name is Claire. I've been married for 9 years. And for the most part, it was good. Not perfect, but good enough. Until it wasn't. I used to be the kind of woman who filled rooms with laughter. Who wore lipstick just to feel beautiful for no reason. Who danced barefoot in the kitchen when no one was watching. But somewhere along the way, I stopped. Not because I stopped wanting to feel alive, but because it stopped feeling like anyone cared if I did. Jared, my husband, he used to notice everything. The way I curled my hair. The perfume I wore. Even the smallest things, like how I hummed when I folded laundry. But lately, he barely looks up from his phone. He comes home tired, talks about work, eats in silence, and sleeps like I'm not even there. Long hours. Short words. That's what our marriage had become. I told myself it was just a phase. That work was stressful. That maybe I was overthinking it. But deep down, I knew something was missing. Not just in him, but in me. Then Liam moved in. He's my son's childhood friend. They grew up together. Bike rides, backyard campouts, messy summer days. And now, he's 22, tall, kind, and trying to get on his feet after losing a job in the city. Jared offered him our guest room. Said it was temporary. Said it was the right thing to do. And I agreed, because what else could I say? Liam came with a few bags, polite smiles, and eyes that carried both gratitude and something else I couldn't quite name. Our house isn't big, but it's warm. Suburban. Clean. Quiet. Too quiet sometimes. Some days, it feels like I'm walking through a museum of what used to be a home. Photos on the walls, but no real connection in the air. The silence between Jared and me used to bother me. Now, I'm just used to it. But with Liam around, the air felt different. Lighter. Like someone had opened a window in a room I didn't even realize was suffocating me. He noticed things Jared hadn't in years. Like how I always made tea before bed. How I rearranged the cushions when I was stressed. How I wore my sadness like a quiet perfume, always there, even if no one asked about it. And he asked. He listened. At first, it was nothing. Small conversations. Polite check-ins. But somewhere in those little moments, I felt something shift. Not in him. In me. It wasn't love. It wasn't even lust. It was the ache of being seen again. And that's where the real danger began. Some people fade out of love. Others just fade into the walls. And before you know it, you're watching someone else open the door to a version of you that you thought was gone forever. It started so small, so simple, it almost didn't feel like anything at all. Liam had been with us for about 2 weeks. He kept to himself mostly, woke up early, helped with little chores, stayed polite. Folded the laundry without being asked. Washed the dishes even when it wasn't his turn. Just present. And I hadn't realized how rare that had become in my world, someone being present. One morning, I came downstairs after trimming my hair the night before. Nothing drastic. Just a few inches. A little change. Something to make me feel new, maybe? Jared didn't say a word. Didn't even glance. But Liam? He looked right at me. Smiled. Then he said, "New cut? Looks good on you." Just that. 5 words. And my chest tightened like I hadn't breathed in days. It wasn't the compliment. It was the fact that he noticed. That I wasn't invisible to everyone. And maybe I shouldn't have let that matter so much. But when you're starving, even crumbs feel like a feast. That evening was my birthday. Not a milestone. Nothing fancy. Just another year older. Another candle I wasn't excited to blow out. I didn't remind Jared. I guess part of me wanted to see if he'd remember on his own. He didn't. He came home late. Dropped his briefcase. Muttered something about traffic. Ate in silence. Went straight to bed. No happy birthday. Not even a glance. I sat in the kitchen alone. One candle lit on the table, a slice of leftover pie, and the kind of silence that doesn't echo, it just stays. Then Liam walked in. He had no way of knowing it was my birthday, but somehow, he knew something was off. He paused, looked at me for a second, and said, "You okay?" I nodded too fast, smiled too wide, that fake kind of smile we wear when the truth feels too heavy. He didn't press, just stepped out for a minute, came back holding a tiny cupcake from the corner store and a plastic fork. "I didn't know," he said, "but everyone deserves cake on their birthday." I laughed. It wasn't a full laugh, more like a soft crack in the dam I'd been holding up. But it felt real. He sat with me. We split that cupcake like it was the most sacred thing in the world. Frosting stuck to my finger. He reached out to wipe it, and for the briefest second, his fingers touched mine. It was nothing, just skin, but it felt like a lightning strike. I pulled my hand back, looked away, but my pulse betrayed me, and in that touch, something awakened in me I thought I buried. Not love, not lust, just longing. Raw and quiet and aching to be heard. And for the first time in a very long time, I wondered what it would feel like to be wanted again. After that night, everything started to feel a little different. And not just between me and Liam. Inside me, like I'd crossed some invisible line, not with my hands, but with my thoughts. I kept telling myself it was innocent. A cupcake, a compliment, a quiet moment, nothing more. But the truth is, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not the touch, not even the words, but the feeling, that feeling of being seen, of someone showing up for me. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to, and I hated how much I craved it. Every time I saw Liam after that, my mind would race ahead of my body. I'd overthink everything, the way I tucked my hair, the perfume I chose, whether my shirt hugged too tight or not enough. I told myself, "Claire, stop. You're being ridiculous. He's just being kind. You're just lonely." And then I'd whisper back, "But isn't that enough?" The guilt was constant. It crept in at night when I lay next to Jared and felt nothing but distance. It whispered during the day when I caught myself checking the mirror a little too long. It followed me like a shadow. But still, I didn't stop. I didn't flirt. I didn't cross any lines. But I lingered. I lingered in the kitchen when Liam was around. Sat a little closer when we talked. Laughed a little longer at his jokes. Not because I wanted something to happen, but because I wasn't ready to let the feeling go. And maybe that was worse. Maybe pretending I was innocent made it easier to justify what was happening inside me. Because my body, it reacted before I gave it permission. I felt butterflies again. Like a girl. Not a tired wife. Not a forgotten woman. But someone who still had something left inside her to give. I dressed differently. Nothing obvious, just subtle changes. A bit of mascara. A blouse I hadn't worn in years. Perfume I used to wear when Jared and I were still in love. I'd stand in the hallway and pretend I wasn't waiting for Liam to walk past. Pretend I wasn't hoping he'd say something, anything, to remind me I still existed. And every time he smiled, every time he looked at me with those soft, open eyes, it chipped away at the wall I'd spent years building around my heart. The part that scared me most wasn't that he was younger, or that he was staying under our roof. It was that he felt safe. Safer than my own husband. Safer than silence. I told myself I wasn't chasing anything. I told myself this wasn't about Liam. But maybe I just stopped running from myself. And when you stop running, you start noticing things you tried hard to forget. It was a Thursday night. Jared had texted hours earlier, some last-minute meeting at the office. Said he wouldn't be home till late. No apology. No warmth. Just a message that felt more like a notice than a husband reaching out to his wife. I didn't even bother replying. The house was quiet. Our son was out with friends. Liam was in the living room, flipping through channels he wasn't really watching. I made tea, poured 2 cups, carried one over and set it on the coffee table in front of him. He looked up and smiled. That soft, kind of smile. The kind that says thank you without words. We sat there, not saying much at first. Just the sound of the television humming in the background and the occasional sip of tea filling the space between us. Then out of nowhere, he said, "She cheated on me." I blinked, not expecting it, not ready for the weight of it. He looked down at his hands, fidgeting, nervous. Then added, "My ex. The one I moved back here to get away from." I didn't push, didn't ask questions. I just listened. He talked slowly, told me how it happened, how he tried so hard to be enough, how it felt to give your all to someone who made you feel small in return. His voice cracked once, and my heart did too. I reached over without thinking and placed my hand gently on his knee. A quiet gesture, meant to comfort, meant to say I see you. I hear you. I understand. But I didn't pull it back. And he didn't move away. We sat there like that, frozen in a moment we both knew was becoming something else. I could feel my pulse in my throat. That kind of heavy silence where even the air feels charged. It wasn't just about his pain. It was mine too. Unspoken, unhealed, finding a mirror in someone I never expected. After that night, things shifted. Late-night tea turned into late-night wine. We'd laugh about old shows, talk about childhood stories, pretend like nothing else existed outside that room. The kitchen became our meeting place. Long after Jared was asleep. The rest of the house quiet. The world paused. Our conversations started to stretch. We'd find reasons to linger, just 5 more minutes. Another question. Another laugh. Sometimes our fingers would brush when we reached for the same mug. Sometimes our eyes would meet and neither of us would look away. I'd tell myself, it's harmless. It's just company. I'm just being kind. But I knew. Deep down, I knew. One night, the power went out. Storm rolling through. Flickering lights. Wind howling against the windows. We lit a few candles. Liam grabbed a blanket, threw it over both of us while we sat on the couch. At first, we stayed on opposite ends. Safe. Distant. But then he shifted. Moved just a little closer. I could feel the warmth of him beside me. The steady rhythm of his breathing. The quiet weight of something neither of us dared name. And when the thunder cracked again, he looked at me. Not the way a boy looks at a woman, but the way a man looks at someone who makes him forget everything that came before. My breath caught. My heart pounded. And then, he didn't move away. And neither did I. It was one of those nights where the sky felt heavy. Rain slammed against the windows like it was trying to wash something away. Thunder echoed in the distance. The kind of storm that makes the whole world feel like it's holding its breath. Jared called just after 9. Said the car broke down. Some engine issue. He tried everything, but the tow company was delayed. He was stuck. Wouldn't be home until morning. His voice was flat. Tired. No, miss you. No, be safe. Just, I'll see you tomorrow. I stood there holding the phone for a second after the call ended. Not sad. Not angry. Just nothing. And that nothing was the loudest thing I'd felt in years. Liam was in the kitchen. He turned when I walked in, raised an eyebrow at the look on my face. Jared's not coming home tonight, I said quietly. And Liam just nodded, like he already knew. We didn't say much after that. I pulled out a bottle of wine. One we'd been saving for something special. I guess I decided. Tonight was something. We sat in the living room. Just like the night of the power outage. Candles lit. The storm outside, making the whole house feel like it was floating somewhere far away from reality. Liam poured 2 glasses. We clinked without saying a word. At first, we talked about nothing. Music. Movies. His plans. My regrets, though I didn't use that word. The wine made everything warmer. Softer. He watched me. Not in the way people do when they're trying to figure you out. but in the way someone looks when they already know something, and they're just waiting for you to say it out loud. Then he said it. "You deserve more than silence." My throat tightened. He didn't say Jared's name. He didn't have to. I looked at him, and in that moment, everything inside me cracked. Not in anger, not even in desire, but in grief. Grief for the woman I used to be. Grief for the love I thought I had. Grief for all the nights I waited to be touched, to be heard, to be wanted. And got nothing. I didn't mean to reach for his hand, but I did. And he didn't pull away. We sat like that, fingers entwined, silence sitting between us like a secret we were both finally ready to share. Then, he leaned in, slowly, like he was giving me time to stop it. I didn't. And when his lips met mine, I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel guilt. I felt alive. It was soft at first, careful, but then something gave way, all the longing, all the hunger, all the quiet ache that had been building for weeks, maybe years. I don't know who moved first, or who deepened the kiss, or when we stopped pretending we didn't know what was happening. But I remember the feeling, hands on my skin, breath against my neck, the sound of rain pounding harder than my thoughts. We didn't speak. There were no promises, no declarations, just heat and need, and two people who had spent too long feeling like shadows. And in that moment, I wasn't a wife. I wasn't a mother. I was just wanted. I'd searched for that feeling in quiet glances and late-night talks, but nothing had prepared me for what it would feel like when the dam finally broke. There was no turning back. Even before it ended, I knew. If you've ever made a choice you can't undo, like this video and stay with me. Because what happened next changed everything. The morning after felt colder than the rain that had fallen all night. I woke up before the sun. The blanket still clung to my legs, but the warmth in the room was gone. Liam was already up, dressed, busying himself in the kitchen like the night before had never happened. He didn't say a word, didn't look at me, just moved around the space, deliberate, quiet, distant. I stood in the hallway, watching him, wondering if I should say something, ask if he was okay, pretend it was all a mistake, pretend it wasn't. But the words, they wouldn't come. So I did what I'd always done. I went back into the shell of myself, and I brewed coffee like that would somehow make everything normal again. By the time Jared walked through the front door, the sky was gray and the silence between us was heavier than it had ever been. He looked exhausted, a little irritated. Wet shoes, wrinkled shirt. But he kissed me, right there in the middle of the kitchen. He kissed me, like nothing had changed, like nothing ever had. His lips were dry, his arms mechanical. The kind of kiss you give someone out of habit, not out of want. I stood there, frozen, trying to remember the last time I wanted that kiss. Trying to pretend it didn't feel like betrayal, his or mine. Liam kept his head down. Didn't say good morning. Didn't make eye contact. He didn't need to. The shift was loud in his silence. He ate quickly, left his plate in the sink, said he had errands to run, and then he was gone. Just like that. No nod, no glance. Just gone. I stood there in the quiet after, listening to the sound of Jared rummaging through the closet, while my heart sat in my chest like a weight I didn't know where to place. I thought the guilt would consume me, but it wasn't just guilt. It was confusion, longing, grief for something I never had but somehow already missed. I kept replaying the night in my head, the way his hands knew exactly where to hold me. The way our breaths found rhythm like we'd done this 1,000 times in some other life. And now he wouldn't even look at me. That stung more than I was ready to admit. I didn't know if he regretted it, if he felt ashamed, if he blamed me. Part of me hoped he'd knock on my door that night, pull me aside, say anything, even goodbye. But he didn't. Days passed, and he got colder, more polite, less present. He started staying out longer, taking calls outside, returning home late like Jared. Like he couldn't stand being under the same roof, And I told myself, good. That's what I wanted. I needed it to end. But inside, I was unraveling. Because while I was trying to hold my marriage together with frayed threads, my mind kept drifting back to the only place I'd felt alive in years. And Liam? He wasn't done. Nights became the hardest part. When the house fell quiet, when there were no footsteps, no dishes clinking, no voices to hide behind, just the sound of my own thoughts breathing too loud in the dark. I couldn't sleep. Not really. I'd lie there, staring at the ceiling, the storm long gone, but something still thundering inside me. And every night, I replayed that moment with Liam, frame by frame. The way he looked at me, the heat in his hands, the softness in his kiss, the way we didn't say a single word because somehow none were needed. But then the questions came. Slow, sharp, constant. Was I just lonely? Or was I selfish? Did I really just fall into something I couldn't stop? Or did I choose it? Because deep down, it felt good to finally feel again. I tried to justify it, told myself it was a moment of weakness, a slip, an accident. But nothing about it felt like an accident. It felt like the most intentional thing I'd done in years. And that made the guilt worse. I wondered what Liam was thinking. If he regretted it. If he hated himself. If he hated me. Or if he was just waiting for me to say something first. Something honest. Something real. But I didn't know how to say it. To him. To Jared. To myself. And then Jared started noticing. It wasn't much at first. Little things. You've been quiet lately. Are you feeling okay? Did I do something